And that gap, Ryan, between where you are today, right, and those objectives that you're looking to execute on and achieve for 2019, that's the sandbox that I play in.
Welcome to Contracting Convos with me, your host, Ryan Groff. This show is all about bringing value to the contracting community at large. So what I do is I interview people who are making a real difference in the contracting community. And what we do is we have conversations about how to help members of the industry grow. We believe that if people are growing, the industry is growing, everyone will benefit. And I foster these conversations. So glad you're here. Please like, share, comment, and thanks for tuning in. I have an awesome guest today, and his name is Jay Scherr, and he and I have been crossing paths over the last couple of years in the industry, and I've really grown to a great connection with Jay and what he's doing and how he does it and who he is. And so I'm excited to have him on, really to just spend some time talking about how he brings value, and hopefully you're going to receive some value today. So Jay, welcome to this little time we set aside together on the show.
Excellent. Well, hey, Ryan, thank you so much. I appreciate it, and I'm honored to be here. And I love what you're doing. I love the concept behind this show, and I've been watching some of your videos, and I tell you, I've been thoroughly impressed with the things that you've been doing. And so we'll chat about that a little bit as we move forward. But anyway, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. So, let me just give you a quick introduction. So, hi, my name is Jay Scherr, and my company is J. Scott Consulting Services. And we're a business consulting company, and I help businesses optimize performance and get fit by bridging the gap between where they are today and where they want to grow. So, do you mind if we do an exercise to give some context to that?
Oh, let's do it.
Okay, terrific. I'm glad you're game. So, Ryan, imagine for a moment that it is December 31st, 2019, and the Sales Transformation Group just had its best year ever. So I want you to think about, what does that look like? And I want you to verbalize that. And as you do it, think about the metrics that are important to you. So as an example, it could be number of new clients that you served. It could be the, new services that you brought to the market, revenue growth over prior year. So think about what that looks like, visualize it, and tell me what the best year looked like for you.
So my desired situation would be I have a lot of new clients I want to bring on. So I've transitioned into a new business model, and it's going well, very well, and my clients are getting great results. So I want to do a certain revenue amount figures in my head. I have a number per month that I'd like to bring in terms of predictability, and I'm committed to making the changes required to do so. And so I know the number of clients per month I believe I need to bring on. There's going to be a ramp up to it. But yeah, I have an end of year number target that I'm certainly going to make happen with all my,
Excellent.
everything I can. Sure. And that would look like my clients' results being what I'm fanatical about. So that would be, they have grown, there's either their service repairs, the replacement work, they're moving into more of a market that is not event driven as much as possible, so they can have a long sustaining company. And then people who are sharing videos, I would have monthly videos of people who have begun the transformation from the course and my group coaching calls, and they're actually finding that they're growing as human beings out more than just sales, because I believe that when people are growing, the sales follow, and sales is it's just a tool that I want to use to bring transformation ultimately. So
Love that. Okay, great. So you've already somewhat outlined what, the number of clients that you're looking to bring on or that you need to bring on in order to achieve your revenue and service commitment goals. You also have new service offerings that you'd like to bring to the market in 2019 and a few other things. So that's really good, right? So you have a vision for what this looks like, and that gap, Ryan, between where you are today, right, and those objectives that you're looking to execute on and achieve for 2019, that's the sandbox that I play in. So when I work with a client, it is extremely important to get clarity around what those goals are. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't have that, then really you don't have a roadmap for where you want to go. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and I'd like to, and I'm so tracking with you. And when you find in your business, how typical is it that somebody knows where they want to go, or they've been in their own sandbox so much they haven't really stood up and looked around enough to set those things and put them into place? I don't know if you've experienced that, but I certainly have.
Well, that's a good question, and I think you've pretty much already answered it. So I would tell you that. Well, let me rewind for just a moment. So I was in the building product space for about 30 years.
Yeah.
So I dealt with a lot of contractors, a lot of distributors, a lot of manufacturers, and so forth. And I always enjoyed working with the contractor base, really, who were the ultimate client, right? They were the ones making the decisions on what products they were going to use,
right,
and who they wanted to align with. But it was interesting, and that was one of the primary reasons why I decided to start my own business, is I found that so many of them really didn't have a lot of clarity around what they wanted to accomplish. They, like in roofing as an example, they knew that they wanted to, be able to install, sell and install as many roofs as possible, and,
right,
and grow their business and have lots of clients and be successful and make lots of money. But how they were going to get there and putting the metrics in place and the processes in place to actually do that was a different story. So to answer your question, there are some very successful ones that are excellent at goal setting and process improvement and things like that. And there's a much larger segment of the market that needs a lot of help. And that's a good thing, because it creates opportunity for your business, creates opportunity for me and others to be of service. And so it's an interesting conversation, especially for a contractor who works in their business more than they work on their business. You might have heard that before.
Sure.
But you have a lot of contractors that grew up in the industry, and they're incredible at what they do, right? I mean, they're incredible with their hands. They've got so much talent. And then all of a sudden, their business starts to grow a little bit, right, through their effort and through their hard work. But they're not working as much on the business itself. How do I scale this business the right way? How do I improve my profitability? How do I bring more talent on board? There's a lot of things that are involved, obviously, in running a business that have to be considered, right? So that's an exciting area, and those are the types of things that I try to help my clients with. But the very first thing you have to do when working with anyone is understanding what their goals and objectives are and what they're looking to accomplish. And there's a process to that.
Totally.
When you're working with somebody, there's a lot of questions that you're asking. So I like my approach is never to go in and say, this is what you're going to do. It's going to be, X, Y, Z. I've got to understand my client. I've got to understand what their pain is,
Right.
what their concerns are, what they're looking to do. And then it's a matter of taking all that information, distilling it, working backwards, and helping them construct a business plan that is going to help them achieve those objectives.
Oh man, that's awesome. I hear your passion and the thought that you put into each client in each situation. And you mentioned something earlier that I heard a quote with somebody before I began working with them, and this was exactly what you said earlier was, man, my sales plan has always been get as much work as we can and do as much work as we can. And man, is that just a recipe to be pulled and be dictated by everyone else but yourself.
Absolutely. No question about it. So let me ask you this. When you've come across clients that have that type of mentality, and I'm going to guess it's probably been more than one,
Yeah.
but when you experience that, how do you explain to them why that approach is more of a fixed type mindset than a growth type mindset? And why is it important to look at that differently than they are today?
Good question. I would say, first off, I would ask them, how has that been working for you? Because I want to hear from them that it's not working, right? Because if it's not working, then they don't have a current situation that's agitated enough, that's painful enough to move away from. So I ask them, how is that working for you? And what's the impact or the consequence of this if it's left unsolved? Is it a problem? I even ask it, is that a problem? Is it? Why? Why is it a problem? And I want them to tell me why it's a problem. And
Good question.
And if they tell me why, I say, well, let's pretend we didn't solve this problem. What would be the case? What would happen? And they would tell me the consequence, and likely that's like one layer, and I'd probably tap in about 3 more. And typically it turns into I don't want to leave my son and daughter the same kind of legacy that I was left, which is basically hey, I got a roofing company and how to roof, isn't that good enough? And it moves into, I want to leave the next generation or the next generation of an ownership a company that's a team, that's an organization that's predictable and that can grow, and then they could take their kids on vacation without being on the phone every moment.
Yeah.
And
that's powerful, Ryan.
And when that happens and they realize that that's what they really want, then we can change.
Yeah, those are some powerful questions, and it sounds like you're taking an excellent approach, because what you're doing is you're trying to get, not only are you uncovering the pain, and as you know, probably as well as anyone else out there, there's no change without pain, right? I mean, that is consistent throughout our personal lives as well as our business lives.
Mm-hmm.
If we haven't reached that threshold, chances are we're not going to change.
Right.
And I've got plenty of personal stories that can account for that, where I personally wasn't in enough pain to make the changes that were necessary to move myself to that next level, whatever that happened to be. So I know it's true, and I've seen it in plenty of businesses. But another thing that you've done, which is very powerful, is you're helping a client of yours identify their why or their primary purpose,
Yes.
right? So what's their why behind their business? Now, that's become a pretty popular buzzword here of late, which has been attributed to Simon Sinek.
Right.
I don't know if you've read his book, but if you're familiar with the process that he uses, it's questioning, right? It's identifying that. And the reason that that's so important is that becomes the basis or the guide for all of your decisions. So when you've identified what that is, that's your reason for getting out of bed every day.
Right.
It is the reason that your employees are engaged in what they're doing. And everybody within your organization needs to understand what that is, right? Because if you, Ryan, let's say a year from now, your company has grown to the point that you've brought on, 4 or 5 new employees, they have to understand that why, because if you're not there, every decision that they need to make needs to tie right back to that why. So similar to what you're doing when you're asking those types of questions, that's an approach that I take with a client as well. So it's identifying those pain points, right? Mm-hmm. Because that's going to lead us to change. And then understanding the why behind every decision that they make. And it's interesting, and you may have found this as well. When you ask someone what the purpose of their business is, why are they in business, right? Why do they do what they do? A lot of times you get that kind of cliche response, well, I want to be rich. I want to make a lot of money. I want to drive, the biggest pickup truck. I want to, have a big billboard. I want to have a nice building. I want to have a great lifestyle for my family. I mean, that's cool. And those are important reasons, but that's not the underlying reason why you're doing what you're doing. So I think where you mentioned that you'll dig maybe additional layers deep, that's a great approach. And I would tell you, I don't know for a fact that there's a magic number as far as how many layers you want to go, but the better the questions are that you ask, the better, the more you are in a position to help that company define and refine what they're doing and why they're doing it.
Yes.
And that's part of that success model. I mean, for me, I mentioned to you at the beginning of our call that I help businesses become more fit. So I've got a playbook that I create for specific clients depending on what their needs are. But that playbook really is a blueprint customized for their success. It's how they're going to get fit. It's no different than going to the gym. I mean, you and I have talked before, and I know you've got a personal trainer, which is a great idea. And I think everyone should have some sort of coach or trainer, sales trainer like yourself. Those are important because there's an accountability factor to it. We all need somebody that can help drive us, that can help keep us on task. But that playbook that I put together really focuses on 3 key areas, and it's mindset, it's habits, and it's behaviors.
Love it.
And if you get those 3 things right, when they're in balance, it's like a 3-legged stool. And if you can visualize that, if those 3 areas are in balance, you're putting the work in, right? Because in order to get to that point, you've got to put the hard work in. But when you've done that, you are going to be successful. And someone like yourself, you can help coach and show others how to be successful in sales and how to transform their business from just quoting every day, quoting and hoping and, spitting out all these numbers and just waiting for things to happen,
Right.
to how to be very strategic in their approach.
Right.
And that to me is extremely exciting. So I know that, I would want to reach out to you as an example, and get some help on, hey, help me role play, help me be more strategic, help me make those sales calls and coach me after a call so you can watch me in action and help refine my approach. Because really it's all about how you communicate, how you listen, and then what you do with that information. And when you can help someone communicate more effectively and listen more intently and ask the right types of questions, it's amazing how powerful that is and how that can help them improve their business.
Totally. And I love it, man. Jay, and that, when it becomes even like a culture which everyone's bought in, then you have a team. Now you have like an army, right? Of like these, of that a breed of professional that is very, very hard to rattle, right? Very hard to extinguish their fire, But before all that, I mean, that's all great, and I talk about what I do often in things that I share, but I wanted to ask you, about mindset. You got the shirt, I think you give it a little, 0% luck, 100% mindset. And as I'm moving on in my journey, I am realizing mindset is everything, right? So coaching I can only get somebody to where I am. And so I'm, surrounding myself with the people that can raise my standard. Because, just one moment, right? Somebody says something, it'll change everything. Like one moment can change everything. And it's like when we're constantly we're constantly surrounding ourselves with those moments that are conducive to change. My gosh, it is amazing what a human being can turn into with the right environment, with the right voices. It is crazy. I mean, it's beautiful to see what happens when people change. And I think that what you said earlier about their why, some people they just want a big truck because they want a nice lifestyle. And the reality is that's probably on the very low in terms of their best version of themselves type of motivation, because that's only going to get them to a certain level to have that, because the potency of that motivation is very clouded with ego, insecurities, proving somebody else wrong, so that they can feel better about themselves. But the baseline is survival, right? People are doing this because they're trying to just survive. That's the first level. And then I see people that are just playing not to lose. They just want to kind of coast. And then you got people who are playing to win. And then you have people who want to be number one. Then you got people who want to be the greatest of all time. And each of those mindsets are incredibly distinct, and the habits and behaviors that are formed. And as the journey is continuing, that's the core. I'm not going to do anything differently or change anything differently unless the mindset becomes different. And so I'm going to ask you, what mindset do you think is the purest, the most, like the fuel of the engine, like it's got the purest and the most powerful source that you've seen in companies, and that may be yours, that may be what you would resonate with, what you would impose on the others. But what we're saying is, if mindset and what's underneath the motivation to get to from their current situation to their desired situation, that's going to dictate the speed, the quality, the effectiveness, the execution of everything that you're laying out in the sandbox.
Absolutely.
And I would love to hear your thoughts on mindset. Give me Jay Scherr's ideal mindset. Let's talk about, like, if I'm a contractor and I'm listening to you talk, I'm going to grow right now because of what you're saying. Like, that's exciting to me. And 1 second, my kids are banging on the door and I need a moment to see how they're doing. 1 second. Yeah, they had some insight they wanted to share on this call, and it had to do with me getting food out of the fridge for them, believe it or not. So yeah, they were
Hey, look,
like,
it's all about survival. And
yes,
I will tell you, and you're probably well aware of this as you're a father to young children. Kids, little kids, are the best at sales, right? Because they don't know how to take no, and they're
relentless.
very good. They're relentless. They're very good at asking questions and
Yeah,
continuing to
why?
probe.
They say
So
why a lot. It's
why?
great.
Yeah. So let me go back and try to answer your question as best as I can. And if I don't, please let me know. But
Okay.
the first thing that I would say to you is around mindset. It really should be about serving others at the highest level possible for you. It has it has to be about service to others. This isn't, you mentioned ego a couple moments ago. This isn't about me or you or the truck or the amount of money. I mean, think about the number of extremely wealthy individuals out there that you hear about, incredibly successful, that are miserable.
Right.
They're just miserable. So that tells us a couple of things, right? That, money doesn't make us happy. But in terms of that mindset, it is all about service. And one of the most challenging things for us as human beings is that our mind is everything. We are constantly, there's so much chatter going on, right?
Right.
One of the things that I really enjoy about meditation, if you want to talk about morning routines, we could do that. But one of the things that I really enjoy about meditation is it allows me and others that meditate to be able to identify and recognize those thoughts, right? Because there's a lot of chatter that goes on that's not at the conscious level. And most of it, unfortunately, is negative.
Yeah.
So we have to change that if we truly want to change our position in life and we want to change our business, then we have to change the way that we think. And you may have heard this before, but we are the average of the 5 people that we surround ourselves with.
Right.
Now, think about that for a moment. Think about how powerful that is. So if your inner circle, if you will, is made up of individuals that are always complaining, or I'm not hitting my numbers, or I don't like where I am right now, or I'm sick, or, whatever it happens to be, if it's a lot of negative talk, that becomes a big part of who you are. And those are the automatic negative thoughts that you and I and everyone else need to be aware of, and we need to conquer those. Because if there's anything that will inhibit our ability to grow and be successful, it is absolutely a negative mindset. You've got to believe with all of your heart and all of your passion that you can do this. There is nothing that you can't achieve when you've got the right mindset, you're surrounding yourself with the right people, you're reading the right books, you're listening to the right types of messages, and you're willing to do the work. So one of the things that I try to find out from a client when I'm working with them, I'll usually have, what I call a discovery meeting. And that's
Yeah.
just an initial meeting to find out, is there even a fit for us working together? There may not be. I mean, they may have a need, but I may not be the right person for them.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to understand where their head is. Are they fully committed to making improvements? What does that look like to them? We kind of talked about the goals a little bit, having SMART goals, but
Mm-hmm.
are they truly committed, and do they have the mindset for success?
Right.
And I'll do that through asking certain types of questions. Tell me what tell me how you think about your business. When you think about the goals that you set out for yourself at the beginning of the year, tell me how you plan to achieve those, and what do you think through? And I really try to get specific, right? So some of the questioning may sound a little obscure, but really what you're trying to understand is, how does the principal of the company, the estimator, the owner, whatever it happens to be, how do they think about situations within their business? What is their mindset around it? So if they need some help there, then usually I'm going to suggest that they read certain types of books, that we have certain types of conversations around that. Because if we can get the head right, if we can get the mind thinking the right way, then we're going to be unstoppable. But it's got to start there. And
Right.
that's, again, that's one of the powerful legs on that three-legged stool that I mentioned to you. And that's all part of that, that business fitness playbook.
Love it. It's awesome. Yeah. I mean, what you mentioned earlier about benefiting others, I remember when I was playing baseball, I got picked on in high school. I mean, my dad was, he was adopted. So he came from a very poor family in Indiana. He was adopted, and he couldn't, really read at 12. He had a lot of his own insecurities. And so obviously, as we all have our challenges in life, that carried over into my young adulthood, or my young adolescence, as I was kind of, his mindset was imposed upon mine, right? Like how he views the world, how he views people, how he views himself. And it was the how he views himself part that was imposed upon me. So I love my father. He did everything he could, and I'm so grateful for all that he did. But much of what I found was that I was very insecure deep down. So a lot of my work ethic was toward some sort of self-affirmation, but I would be so concerned about other people's affirmation as my own source of self-affirmation. In high school, I remember working so hard just so that I could prove somebody wrong, that I was not a goofball, or, that I wasn't you know what I mean? I remember just that drive.
Sure.
That, like, I want to be and then I want to be a pro baseball player. So then I could, eventually, like, show all those knuckleheads who's the real success story here. Right. And then it turned into a little bit less about that, because you kind of gain your confidence, and then you find your real identity sources and what they should truly be rooted in. And now I'm finding this place. So the mindset is becoming more about, like, you shared, the benefiting of others, right? Because if our life, and I don't know, this is something I'm tapping into lately, but it's called the Enneagram. Have you ever heard of the Enneagram?
No.
It is an incredible, it's probably the oldest one, but it's not as common these days. It's making a comeback in some areas, but it's basically like a personality, deal. But I found that I'm an 8 with a left wing. It hits me to a T. And then my wife's a 9 with a 1 wing, and we are, that has like intercompatibility and stuff. And so if anybody's interested in doing their Enneagram test, there's free ones online. And then I think the Enneagram Institute shares very detailed, incredible explanation of your best version of yourself, like what your very best at your number is. And I'm finding that, not everybody thinks like me, not everybody thinks like you. I don't think like my wife, My wife wants zero friction in this world. She wants to live in Hawaii in a paradise where there's no friction, and I'm a challenger, and I love pain because I just find I like to challenge it head on. So she and I are like fire and water, and she's helped me be receptive, and I help her
Wow.
get energetic. It is so unique how much we learn from this.
That is.
But what I found was that, like, as I'm growing and being more aware of myself and being more assured and approval, I'm improving myself, right? Deep down, if you approve yourself, everything changes, right? But if you're always seeking other things to finally then make yourself feel worthy of yourself, right? Like, once I do this, I'll be able to accept myself, or once I do this, or once my dad or my mom or whoever.
Yeah.
And as those layers are peeled off and you keep affirming yourself to the corest of core insecurity, you are like an impenetrable human being, and you'll never lose, because you haven't given anybody permission to do that.
That's right.
And it's everything. So I found, in my best version of myself my best version is to come help people. And my worst version, I've seen my worst version in fights with my wife early in our marriage, and I've seen it, right? I'm like, wow. And so if we can be the best version of ourselves for the benefit of as many people as we're able to reach, that is like the purest form I could see in my life right now of success.
Yeah.
And that's,
man, I love that.
and what if our contracting companies are not about, I want to do this and make this much money, but they're about, I want to bring as many employees and feed as many families, and they have single family homes, and they're able to own a debt-free vehicle or two, and they're able to take I love when owners tell me they want to see their people growing. And that blows me away. Whenever I hear people saying that, then I'm like, okay, so I know it's not about you, buddy. It's not all about you.
That's right. That's right. That's an ideal type of client to work with.
Right.
And I mean, you hit on some super powerful things there. And I'll say that Zig Ziglar said it best. And I think about this all the time when it comes to setting specific goals, but you can have everything in life you want if you just help enough other people get what they want, right? So think about those words for a moment and what that truly means. It is all about servicing others and bringing value to others. And in your role and in my role and others that are in a service type or consulting type business, it truly is about bringing that type of value. And if we're not doing that, if we're not bringing value and a return on the investment that our clients are making, then we're doing a disservice to our clients, right? At that point, if I felt that I wasn't serving my client and bringing massive value to them and helping them achieve those results, then I'm extracting myself from the situation, because I can't feel good about what I'm doing and the whole reason, my whole why behind my business. I can't feel good about that if they're not seeing the value, right?
Awesome.
So
yeah.
It really is. It's very, very exciting when you do have a client that gets that, and or at least they're willing to kind of expand their mindset a bit and move past the, oh, I thought I was in business because I wanted to make tons of money and have all the equipment and the ego side of things talking. When you can move past that and get to the raw meaning behind your business, the purpose, you'll accomplish amazing things.
So true. And because a lot of people haven't asked those deeper questions, they're still caught in their notifications on their social media buzzing and this person pulling at them. And you got a minutes and people coming in their office and you hear it, fire, I got to put out fires, and people unfortunately they're living their entire life with a extinguisher in their hands. And it's sad. It's sad because they can never get past that and become their ultimate self. They can't get through because they just haven't slowed things down enough. And so, this is great. I'm really loving talking with you, Jay. And I want to probably just kind of wrap this up and ask you to kind of share with us, the listeners, excuse me. Good thing I have mute, or else people have been hearing me coughing the whole time. I'd like to know an example or two of that, that outcome. Forgive me. That outcome that you got, that you're excited about, that you love, that occurred, and then how people can get a hold of you.
Absolutely. So I'll think of one recent example comes to mind. I had a client who reached out and they needed some help really organizing their business. They'd already been in business for a number of years and they had some minor success, but they wanted to start to go after bigger opportunities. Okay. And they weren't confident enough in the way their business looked, how they packaged themselves, and how they presented themselves to the marketplace. So we sat down and we talked about their organizational structure. We talked about the type of business that they wanted to go after, where they wanted to grow, and what that could potentially look like for them if they achieved those objectives. And once I understood what they were looking to do, we started to work backwards to kind of fill those gaps in and help them get to that point. And when we did, and I worked with them for a while on a project by project basis, but when we were able to finally deliver on what they were looking to achieve, it enabled them to be able to bid and go after some of these bigger types of projects. And they ended up securing quite a few of them.
Nice.
And because of the work that they put in, they doubled in size in less than 12 months. And the great thing about it is not only did they double their revenue, but their profits went up substantially because they were now the processes that we put in place allowed them to be much more nimble. They were more effective and they were more efficient. So that reduced their operating cost and allowed them to be more profitable. So when I can help a client like that and I'm helping them be successful and they're achieving their goals and their objectives, that to me is success. And I measure my success with every client that I work with based on that return on their investment. If they're succeeding, then I feel like that, I've added value and I've helped them out and I feel good about that. And then ways that anyone can contact me, you can reach out to me on my cell phone. That's 904-236-0431. Check out my website. It's the initial J, Scott, consultingservices.com. And then just look me up, Jay Scherr, JayScherr on all the social media platforms, and you'll come across my company. And, would love to help any and all of your clients out if they want to just have a conversation and learn about what they can do and what this business fitness playbook looks like and how it can benefit them. Reach out. Let's have a conversation.
Yeah. Well, I hope people do, because I know you'll bring an incredible amount of, detail, integrity, commitment, and I'm sure people will continue to see, great things happen with their business, especially, those who are going to engage with you. So Yeah. So I'm really grateful we got to spend some time together, and thanks for doing this.
As am I.
We should do it again and at some point. But yeah, appreciated this conversation. And yeah, anybody who's got some situations they want to do some things, reach out to Jay. He's a proven person in this industry. He knows the space, and he knows business, and he knows life, and he knows what he wants. And I think that's what it's all about. So thank you guys for tuning in, and I will see you on the next one.
Thanks so much, Ryan.
Got it.
Take care.
You're the sunflower. I think your love would be too much, or you'll be left in